This video is brought to you by Nokian Tires, a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made in USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantire.com/EV. This video is also brought to you by Magna, forward for all.
Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Out of Spec Reviews. I'm Max presenting today, and today I've got the Q8 Audi e-tron. We're gonna run it through what's become, I know, many of y'all's favorite test, one of my favorite new tests we're doing, the 10% challenge. So I'm gonna tell you what the 10% challenge is first off, for those of you who are new to this test that we do for both efficiency and charging of EVs, and then I'll get you familiar with the Q8 e-tron in general, how this compares to the original Audi e-tron, some quick overview of that, and then we'll get into the test. I'm really excited to see how this newer model with a larger battery does. So let's get it tested tonight in our 10% challenge. Okay, you join me inside the very luxurious, cushy interior of the Audi e-tron. What we've got here is the Q8 e-tron Prestige, the 55, the only powertrain we really have in the US, unless you're talking about the spicy SQ8 e-tron, formerly known as e-tron S. We don't have to get into that right now. But what is the 10% challenge, in case you this is the first one you're watching? Well, it's really interesting. So you're probably familiar with EV range tests if you're watching this channel, our 70-mile-an-hour highway range test. That is interesting, but to be honest, Kyle developed a better test that we think is more relevant. I won't say better, you know, we still are doing range tests. There's a range test on this vehicle you can check out on this channel. If it's uploaded, put it in the info card. But this test is interesting because it simulates more of a road trip scenario where we're going higher speed than 70 miles an hour and we're involving charging in it. So here's how it works. I'm going to run this Audi e-tron down to 10%. It's currently 11%. So I'm letting it tick down. The minute it goes from 11 to 10%, I'm going to go to those EVgo chargers behind me and I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to record the handshake time, how long it takes to actually start the charging session, just for, you know, we do that. It's variant on each charger. It's not the most useful thing, but some of you like to have it, so we do it. On this EVgo Delta unit, we've used it in several other tests. These are great chargers, but of course these times will vary, so don't expect this to happen all the time. But anyhow, we'll record the time it takes for the car to communicate with the charger and start charging. Then we charge for exactly 15 minutes from 10% state of charge in the battery and see where that gets us. Of course, I'll record what the battery percentage is, and because these EVgo units are awesome, they're going to tell us exactly, you know, how many kilowatt hours were delivered, all of that within 15 minutes. We'll unplug them at 15 minutes, and then we will get on very quickly the E470 toll road in Colorado here, which is kind of a ring toll road, very low traffic at this time of night. Right now it's about 9 o'clock as I'm recording this. And that way we can lock in safely the cruise speed to 80 miles an hour. This is crucial for the test. 80 miles an hour is, you know, I think a very accurate high speed benchmark for what highway travel is like in the States. For those of you in Europe and other countries, you may look at 80 miles an hour and whatever that is in kilometers. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant, but you may look at that and be like, what? But in the States, we travel, especially in the West, at speeds like that and even greater sometimes. But we're going to do 80 miles an hour. We want to stay, of course, on the right side of the law here. And we're going to basically go in a loop style. We're going to try to, you know, turn around at the halfway point of depleted charge and get back to not exactly the charger, but as close as we can get loop style with 10% battery. And when it ticks back down to 10% battery, we will record the total range of the vehicle has gone. So for some context here in this test, I think the current like benchmark leader is still the Porsche Taycan rear wheel drive with like the 19-inch wheels, I want to say. Kyle tested that one and it got a spectacular result, right? He had it at 10%, charged it for 15 minutes. It had an excellent charging and it went really far, I think like 140 miles until it was back down to 10%. Other vehicles we've had in this test, Toyota BZ4X has not done so well because that vehicle is not a spectacular charger, even though it's actually quite efficient. The Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive LFP, my colleague Ryan's car, has done very well in this test. Anyhow, there's a sheet we'll link in the description if you want to look at our other test results that are there, but I'm just outlaying the test and its procedure. Hopefully that's useful. We, of course, also set, just like in a range test, tire pressure to manufacturer spec. So we're running the manufacturer tires. I'll talk about those when I talk about the car in the next chapter of this video, but we set those to the recommended pressure. We have our climate set to 68 to 72 with auto fan speed. Tonight I'll be doing 68, which is comfortable for me. No massaging seats, unfortunately. I'm really roughing it for y'all here. You're welcome. And no heated seats, no other auxiliary functions, but we will be running climate control during the test as you would want to in a road trip. We're not hypermiling here. We're not nerd level 9,000. Let's get the most range. No, we're just doing what most normal people would do. So 68 degrees, auto fan speed, and I'm also going to be using the efficiency setting and the Audi e-tron's drive mode. So we always try to use the eco-efficient setting. There is a range extending mode, but that's the kind of nerd hypermiling mode that turns off climate, and we ain't doing that tonight. We are going with the normal eco mode, eco profile. But anyhow, that's the basics of the test procedure. Hopefully that is a good rundown of what to expect in this video. Of course, we'll walk you all through it. But let's get into the next chapter of this video, which is this vehicle, the Q8 e-tron, what's new with it, where it came from, the original e-tron, specs we're looking at, and what I'm expecting to see. So this is the Q8 e-tron, and as spec'd as we're testing it, it's the Prestige model, which means it's the nice one. Actually, I think it's the Launch Edition. So it's Prestige and Launch Edition. It's basically the Mac Daddy of Q8 e-trons. MSRP on this guy is $91,500 US. It's an expensive vehicle. You can't get it cheaper. Base price of it with the same powertrain, but with fewer of the nice things, is going to be, I think, 75 grand. And if you lease it, it's tax credit eligible, in case you're wondering. We've done some buying advice and other videos on this on the Out of Spec Guide channel, where you can normally find me, by the way, if you're curious about this vehicle. But specs and all that, right? Big news here is compared to the old Audi e-tron, which was just known as the e-tron, terrible naming. I don't know why they do it, because e-tron GT, here you have like a Porsche Taycan thing that's in its own land, and then you have Q4 e-tron, which is like a fancy ID4, and then you have the e-tron without any name, because it was the first one. That was this vehicle. I guess to make it less confusing with the generation, they're calling it the Q8 e-tron. It's not really Q8 sized. It's not exactly a Q8 platform. If I'm correct, I think the original e-tron was more closely derived from like a Q5 size platform, but it is its own kind of bespoke EV architecture, as Volkswagen or as Audi will tell you. They have updated it marginally for this generation. The big news here is the original e-tron was never known to be a very efficient vehicle. That's all changed, because this one has, well, actually it's not changed in the sense of being more efficient, but it does have more range. The old one had 200 to 220 miles of range, and it got that with a 86.5 kilowatt hour usable battery, 95 kilowatt hour gross pack, and dual induction motors making like 355 horsepower, 414 pound-feet of torque, a little bit more for boost periods, but those were the sustained numbers. Motors are actually mostly the same here. Also dual induction. I think maybe the rear one or one of them has more windings or something, but they're making the same power, and I think they're largely the same. But the battery is the big news. Has a much larger battery pack, 114 kilowatt hour gross, 106 kilowatt hour net usable capacity, which delivers, supposedly according to the EPA, 270, I think, miles of range. Big upgrade from the previous model, like an easily 70 miles of extra range. Many people will appreciate. So that is here. And charging specs. The old one, if you watch this channel, if you're an EV nerd, you'll be well familiar that it has a legendary charging curve, meaning that when you plug it in, even though its 150 kilowatt peak was not particularly high compared to some of the other vehicles, which peak to higher speeds, it held that speed well into the battery pack, had a very flat curve, meaning you could get a consistent, reliable charge, and it would do 10 to 80% in like 30 minutes or less, and it held it, its speeds really deep into the pack. This new one, we'll have to see about that. I'm also doing a charging log later tonight, but it's supposedly got a higher peak rating. They say, I think, 170 kilowatts. So they're still quoting 10 to 80 in 30 minutes. It doesn't seem like the overall charging speed is going to be much quicker, but I think it will peak higher. We'll have to see if that legendary charge curve holds up, at least for the 15 minutes we're charging it for. I'm sure it will sustain near its maximum speed for at least that time. But yeah, so, legendary charger. Hopefully that's the same, larger battery this time. and mostly otherwise unchanged. There's new cosmetic upgrades which are here, like they have this new light up grille, which I think matches some of the other new Volkswagen ID vehicles, and like the new Q4 e-tron, and just, you know, the new Volkswagen Group design language for their futuristic EVs. Two-dimensional badge. Apologies, it's night, the camera's noisy, I'm sure there's bugs on it. It's not going to be the most pristine example of this car. We're here tonight for range and efficiency, not for showing off the car. But hopefully this gives you a good idea of what the car is in case you're newer to it. I'm looking forward to testing it. It's a really nice, comfortable vehicle, just like the old one. I think it's expensive, especially considering what used ones are going for, but this video isn't buying advice. I just wanted to kind of run over the vehicle with you. Let's talk about the efficiency or the efficiency affecting things on this spec. So because this is the launch edition and has a bunch of cosmetic packages, this one is sitting on 21-inch rims, and we have the Continental Cross Contact OE tire for this model. So yeah, those are the tires we're running. They are the recommended manufacturer spec, which is, I believe, 45 PSI in the rear, 42 PSI on the front. So everything is basically as equipped from the factory on this e-tron. Now, there is an e-tron with 20-inch wheels. Most of the specs have only 20-inch wheels. So if you really care about range, that would be the one to test. But hey, this is the one we have to test today. So I just wanted to make that disclaimer. There also is an Q8 e-tron, which has more powerful motors, a quicker 0 to 60. This one is 5.4 seconds, by the way. I think that one is, I don't know, like a second lower maybe, somewhere in the fours. But we're not testing that today. This is the normal Q8 e-tron, the luxury family dog haul, or whatever you want to call it, mid-size luxury SUV. So hopefully that's a good entry to the vehicle. And now let's see what the battery is at, hopefully closer to 10%. And let's get everything dialed in for our test to really begin. Okay, we have just ticked over the 10% state of charge. I pulled up to the unit, and now I'm going to start the handshake. I'll leave you for that because I have to start a timer on my phone. I'll update you once I have the time on that. But before I start that, let me first of all stop the Audi e-tron. I'll turn it back on once it's charging and get the auxiliary climate going, as you might if you were waiting in the car when you were charging and wanted AC on. But let me show you something really cool. And it's not just this illuminated door car, though. That's really neat. Isn't that luxury? But Audi e-tron, as spec'd here with the AC charge package, has an extra AC charge port on the other side. So it's got a motorized one here, but it also has a motorized charge door here. Now, we can't use this one for DC fast charging for obvious reasons. It's just the Type 1 connector. There's only a DC on one side, but for home charging, you could plug in on either way. So that's really cool. It'll only let you have one charge door open at a time, though, in case you were wondering. Trying to plug it in both ways, it's not going to make it charge any faster. Anyhow, here's the CCS goods. So let's get this guy activated, plugged in, and I'll let you know how long that handshake time takes from latching in to actually charging the car. Okay, we just clicked over. Our charge session has started. By the way, in case you're wondering, 40 seconds, we'll put that in the Google Sheet. There was 41 seconds basically of handshake time once I had payment authorized and it began communicating, checking cable safety, authorizing the session, and then, you know, confirming the voltage with the car, doing all the things these DC dispensers have to do for safety and protocol. Anyhow, we're straight away at 135 kilowatts, bottom or close to bottom of pack voltage, I imagine. So that'll probably ramp up closer to 170 as we get going here. Let's turn the AC on in the car to make sure we're using that. Okay, in case you're curious about Audi e-tron, how to force the climate on while you are charging, what we have to do is we have to go into, I believe, vehicle settings, and it's outside of charging. It's under air conditioning, I believe. And we are going to press, I believe it's this thermometer icon. Yep. And then we'll have immediate start on auxiliary air conditioning, as you might have it running if you were going to be charging this vehicle in a hot place and doing it while you charge. We're just trying to simulate those conditions here. Of course, 70 degrees eco climate, but we do have air conditioning running as well as charging. By the way, battery pack, I can't show you temperature unlike a Porsche. Unfortunately, Audi MMI has no way of doing that. I can tell you battery temperature is probably ideal. It's a cool night here. Ambient conditions are, it says car says 70. It's actually a bit cooler. It's 68 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. We've got, I think, 8 mile an hour winds from the southeast. So constant winds, they're not that high speed, which will be nice. Of course, this is a loop style test, so hopefully that'll help neutralize it. And yeah, we're charging decently here. But yeah, auxiliary air conditioning is running. So this is the kind of settings you would hopefully want on a road trip. Anyhow, let's see how the charge is going while all that's going on. So the car, of course, it's harder here because it has to cool both the cabin and its own battery while it's charging. Battery, again, shouldn't be too hot. It should be just warm enough because I've driven it over here and, you know, it's somewhere in a moderate temperature zone. We don't have too cool or too warm of a night. So we should be in the Goldilocks zone for battery stuff. Anyhow, let's see what's our session looking like. We are just at about 3 minutes and we're getting 140 kilowatts. So it's taking a little longer to ramp up to 170 than I would expect. Again, like I said, battery temperature should be close to ideal. I wish there was a better way for me to see it in the Audi infotainment system the way Porsche lets you, but they don't, alas. I checked with Kyle, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, we're still at 141 kilowatts. I'll update you throughout this charge as we get closer to 15 minutes on how we're doing. Okay, we've just reset the trip computer and the short-term memory sitting at 0 miles now. Now we're almost done with this charging session and I have some good news. I think we are picking up the speed here as we pick up a little bit more operating voltage. Apologies if you hear some wind noise. We're almost at the 15-minute mark and now we're finally at 167 kilowatts, almost halfway state of charge, 42%. Great to see. So I'm actually pretty pleased with how this curve is ramping up. Session details, let's see, 424 current operating voltage, or current voltage being, sent through direct current into the battery pack, 33.7 kilowatt hours added. So I'll join you as I shut this off at 15 minutes. Okay, we're just approaching 15 minutes. The peak speed I've seen is 168 kilowatts. And let's get ready to stop the charge right here at the 15-minute mark. Stop charge and session. Alrighty, maybe it was a second too slow. I don't know. Let's call it close enough. So looks like I can disconnect this boy from here. All right, good to disconnect. Total session time, oh no, I added an extra second. Hopefully that doesn't invalidate the test. 37 kilowatt hours added, just over that. State of charge is currently sitting at 46%. Of course, we started at 10%. So we had a 36% battery, which equates to 37 kilowatt hours, right? Because 106 kilowatt hour total usable battery. Not too bad with our 15-minute charge session. Now, let's get on 25, which gets us on to 470 and get to 80 miles an hour, ramp up, accelerate normally, and sit at that speed for our loop style, try to end up back in this area and see what we get. I'm optimistic. I think we had a lot of range, but it'll of course come down to efficiency. I don't think we're going to be beating any Taycans or even rear-wheel drive Model 3s today, but hopefully we'll do well, and we'll see what this e-tron manages to get in the 10% challenge. All right, we're at the stoplight. We just got out of the EV Go station. As you can see, our trip has just begun. We have a very loud old school 4Runner in front of us, taking off cool onto Highway 7, which will take us very quickly onto I-25, where we can accelerate gradually to 80 miles an hour. And then, of course, we can merge onto the toll road, which is where we'll spend most of the test. So I'll see you as I merge onto the highway and get to 80 miles an hour in the Q8 e-tron. All right, here we are merging onto 25. Here you can see approaching the direction we need to be, heading south on 25, which will take us to 470, which we will take east to begin with. And we are merging very gradually, as you would. We're not trying to do any hardcore acceleration, just merge to that 80 mile an hour smooth speed limit. We do also have to merge into 470, so I may not be at 80 long here, but I'm gonna accelerate as quickly as I can. Here's the tollway, so that's our exit. We're going to take it. Here we are, just at about 80 miles an hour. Let's set it with cruise control. So turn cruise control on, of course. Set it to 80 miles an hour, which I have GPS checked, by the way. This car is almost dead on accurate. Basically, 80 miles an hour in the speedometer, according to my phone's GPS, is 80 miles an hour. So we are going to set the speed to that and leave it there. And luckily tonight is a beautiful night in the sense that it is very low traffic here on Wednesday night at about 10 o'clock, as I would hope so, on the toll road. So beautiful conditions, can't complain, and we're just gonna keep cruising along while we're cruising here on this wonderfully smooth toll road, where I'm able to maintain this 80 miles an hour, use of course also the Audi lane assist, which is a pretty good system, by the way, keeping me safe. Of course, my eyes are on the road as well. But why don't I tell you a little bit about the e-tron, things I like about it on the interior. These apply to old e-tron too, by the way, but also they are notably found in Q8. I do have to shift over because someone's merging. I love these light up seat belts. If you can see here, if I can focus the camera on them, they look like they're out of Tron. I guess pun intended, right? E-tron. I don't know if the Germans went to Disney for that trademark, but yeah, cool light up futuristic seatbelts applies to the rear too. That's because we have the Prestige package with the rear side airbags. What a weird option that only a German company would. I don't know. It feels complicated to me, but rear side airbags for $400. You get that option. It also gives you these illuminated rear seatbelts for front and rear passengers as well. They're so cool. Such a nice attention to detail. I personally think the text here that says e-tron is a little bit cheesy. I think they've always had this in e-tron, like Alyssa's has it. Maybe some people like it. I don't know. Tell me if you like it. I think it's cheesy. Like, why do I need to be reminded that I'm in an e-tron? Can I just have a more subtle car? But again, I'm used to like Polestar and Tesla style interiors that are more minimal. This one's a little bit more in your face, more going on. It's not quite as flashy as the Mercedes cars, which are like a light parade, but it is a cool environment to be in at night. And I like it. Camera's having some trouble focusing here in low light, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. Steering wheel, of course, with these backlit buttons is very enjoyable. Classic, high quality, Audi design. They've updated it slightly for this model here, for the Q8, and it's nice. And then you've got this nice illumination, also illuminating these very nice, prestigious materials that you have in the Prestige trim. So overall, super comfortable, even at efficiency, which of course isn't comfort mode. Even still, I find very comfortable ride, and I'm just cruising on the highway, just bouncing along in my Audi, in our loaner press Audi. But yeah, I'm enjoying this e-tron. Anyhow, I'll update you on our progress as we keep going. As we cruise along, we haven't quite made the halfway turnaround point. We're at 33% battery, but you might notice this number over here. 1.8 miles a kilowatt hour. That's pretty poor efficiency. That's because we're heading kind of southeast right now, and we have winds coming from southwest, roughly bearing from that direction. Of course, heading north. So we have sort of side / cross headwinds at the moment. When we return heading northwest, the wind should be more in our favor. So I'm hoping the efficiency will improve. Of course, we're also going 80 miles an hour in the e-tron, so I'm not expecting us to be at the high, 2-point whatever zone, but I'd hope it'd be a little higher than this, and I think it will be once we turn around. Okay, we're at about 27% state of charge, so this is a perfect turnaround point. We are taking, let me get the number of this exit to you, but it's an exit that's going to get us back with around 10%. It is exit 13, Quincy Avenue in Aurora. So we're going to take this exit as safely as we can, smoothly decelerate, and then try to keep momentum best we can. Okay, apologies for that. I had to stop filming because there was some construction in that turnaround, a little bit hectic, but we got turned around, we accelerated smoothly back to 80 miles an hour, and we're headed back to that EVgo station. We're gonna stay on the highway once we reach 10% to make sure we're still going 80 miles an hour. So average speed hopefully will continue to tick up. It's currently at 61, but again, I had to turn around safely. I've had to start this test at the EVgo. So we're just 80 miles an hour constant when we're on the highway, but when I turn around, I have to slow down. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at these numbers. But 40 miles so far, and we're at I think 26%, 25% state of charge. So we're doing okay. I don't think we're gonna smash it today in terms of performance, and this just speaks to e-tron's lack of efficiency. It's a great charger, but not the best charger because it's not a high voltage vehicle like Porsche Taycan that can just, suck down the kilowatts. This one is okay, and it's consistent, and I think it's gonna be fine for a lot of people, but man, I can tell you 40 miles and we're, past the halfway point of, depletion at 10%. That isn't looking leaderboard worthy, let's just put it that way. But nonetheless, I think we're gonna still get a fine result, and I'll take it, anything above, I think 60 miles is livable, and I think we will get there with e-tron today. But poor efficiency is definitely revealing itself today. Again, temperatures are very normal. I mean, 62 degrees right now. It's a little bit cooler, but not cold by any means. Winds at the moment are in our favor. And even in this well-insulated cabin, I can hear that. It's a little quieter going this way because the 6-mile-an-hour right southern winds are at this point kind of pushing us north. So that's why we do these tests as a loop style. It helps us neutralize for both elevation, wind, all kinds of factors like that. So helps us out a lot when we are doing these tests. I'm going, again, slightly higher than that speed to compensate, again, for the slowdown that I had when I had to make that turnaround. But we're gonna try to keep our average speed at 80 miles an hour, of course, best we can on the highway. Cruising along well so far, 42 miles, and I'll update you as we get closer to 10%. Okay, we're approaching what would be the entrance to the toll road we took, but since it says we're going to be at 13% getting to EVgo, we want to, of course, maintain 80 mile an hour speed. We're going to stay on the toll road and keep going past that point and find a turnaround that's convenient. That's our mission here tonight. So we want to be right at 10% ticked over when we're still going at highway speed. So we're going to go a little bit further. Perfect. It's found another potential option to get us there with 10%. I think there's also probably just a turnaround we can use in 470. So that's what I'll try to do. Try to get as close as possible to that merge point of 25 and 470 that I entered this toll road on, and do my best there. But currently we are at 67 miles just about. And our trip is going well. Efficiency has averaged out so far to 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Okay, there's no convenient turnaround point. So we're just basically at this point 3 miles past where we entered the toll road. Not perfect loop style, but we're at 11%. So I figured I might as well keep rolling, filming now, update you. We're at 70.4 miles. Would turn around if I could, but again, 3 miles past there, can't control where the exits are placed. There is an exit in 1 mile, so that's what we'll be taking, but I think we'll tick over to 10% before then. So I will just keep rolling with you and be here exactly when that happens. So we are at 11% still. Okay, finally turning left. Sorry, that light took a while, but anyhow, 11% still. We're at 72.6 miles currently. And we are on Dillon Road, but we're going to merge back on to 470 so we can accelerate gradually to 80 miles an hour again. And we're at 10%. Okay, 10% as we're accelerating, 72.8 miles. So to be generous, we could call that 73 miles, accounting for the fact that we had to stop and accelerate with traffic. I'll leave the margin up to you, but you have all the data now. So 73 miles, I'm going to call it there. We're at 10%. So 73 miles is decent. It's not amazing. It's not world-breaking. To quote a nuclear scientist, nuclear technician on a reactor, not great, not terrible. That would be how I summarize that result. Okay, rolling along in the Audi and dipping below 10%, but there we go. We made it just about 73 miles at 80 mile an hour speed limit, which we were able to basically keep. No traffic really, just unfortunate turnarounds with construction, red lights. Took longer than I would have liked, but we kept our accelerations very smooth, deceleration smooth. So I think we can be happy with those results for today. Yeah, story with the e-tron is it charged well, right? Took in about 38 kilowatt hours. And so that was decent. Efficiency, not its friend, 2.1 miles a kilowatt hour. And that resulted in us getting 73 miles in today's 10% challenge. So I will take that result, but yeah, not topping leaderboard here. Thank you for joining me on this out of spec reviews 10% test. Please let us know what other kind of vehicles you want to see tested on this. We do have some exciting ones coming in that I can't wait to run through this test, whether it's me or Kyle or Ryan, whomever you may see delivered to you on YouTube. But it's been my pleasure to join you tonight, and I'm going to drive this e-tron down to 0% because I'm also going to film a charging log for you that Kyle will voice over and talk about. Because for those of you nerds, I know you're super curious about how this new e-tron charges and if its curve is as flat as the legendary old one. Anyhow, I've been Max. Thanks so much for joining me with this Q8 e-tron tonight on the 10% challenge. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.